Good morning, friends. Today we are going to talk about anatomy of ear, which is one of the sensory organs. And particularly as the topic is big, we are dividing it into two or three parts. So today we are going to talk about general introduction of anatomy of ear and external ear specifically. This is the diagram of anatomical ear. So here you can see it start from the outer antenna-like thing, that is pinna or auricle. Then there is a canal which is a conducting duct from where the sound waves which are attracted in the antenna or pinna are going to be transferred towards the inner part. Then in the middle there is middle ear. Middle ear, you can say this is a room where some machineries are fit to condition the air or sound waves which are going to go there. Then from that particular room it will go inside to the main compartment, which is the internal ear or inner ear, which has some snare-like organ, which is basically for two functions. One is for the hearing purpose, cochlea specifically, another is for the balancing purpose. And then whatever electrical signals are going to be received, they are going to be transferred to the hearing part of the brain, and from there the response will be generated. So this will be the main theme what we are going to study in total of the anatomy of the ear. So let's start the topic. So ear, as we all know, it is the organ of hearing and balance. It has three parts. The first part is external ear, consisting of the part attached to the lateral aspect of the ear, is this particular part, pinna, and the canal inverse, that is external acoustic meatus. The second part consists of middle ear, a cavity in the petrous part of temporal lobe, which is a cavity bounded laterally and separated from external ear by a membrane-like curtain and connected internally to the pharynx by a narrow tube. So that membrane-like thing which is present in between is tympanic membrane or eardrum. The third part consists of internal ear, which is a series of cavities within the petrous part of temporal bone again, between the middle ear laterally and internal acoustic meatus medially. So these are the three basic big deep compartments which we have to study. Here again you can see the outer ear, that is pinna and external acoustic canal, then middle ear tympanic membrane, auditory ossicles, melascus and stapes, middle ear cavity and Eustachian tube. The inner ear there will be two windows from where the message will be taken, over window and down window. Then the organs are there like cochlea and semicircular canal. So this is the basic division about the ear. What does actually ear do? The internal ear converts the mechanical signals, the sound waves which we have received from middle ear via external ear are captured or transferred into the electrical signal to transfer information to the specific part of brain, the concerned part of the brain. The internal ear also contains receptors that detect the motion and position. The two functions are there basically. The famous one, hearing, plus there is a function of detecting motion and position or balance of the body, which is also been done by the ear itself. Now coming to the first part, external ear. So external ear basically consists of two parts. The part projecting from the side of the head is called auricle or pinna, and the canal leading inwards is called external acoustic meatus. You can see the diagram. There is pinna and there is ear canal. Let's see about the auricles. The auricle is a very specific organ which is lying lateral to the head, and it is actually to attract the sound wave towards itself and to transfer them into the external acoustic meter. The auricle is on the side of the head, assists in capturing the sound, as I alluded to. It consists of cartilage covering with the skin, arranged in the pattern of various elevations and depressions. The large outside rim of the auricle is called helix. You can see this is helix, the outermost thing or rim-like thing which is present, helix. It ends inferiorly as the fleshy lobule, which is the only part of auricle which does not is supported by cartilage. The hollow center of auricle is called concha of auricle. The external acoustic meatus leads from the depth of this area towards the inside. So what are the things which you have to learn? So it's better you learn a diagram and you follow upside to downside the different structures. So this outermost ring will be helix. Then below to it there is a small triangular fossa. Then opposite to helix there is same type of thing is there which is present inside, it is antihelix. Okay, and the curves or the parts of helix, antihelix will be called antihelix crura. Then opposite to it, on the opposite outer side, there is scaphoid fossa. This is antihelix, as you can see. This is the part which is connecting helix with the antihelix. It is helix plus. Then towards the medial side, there is one elevated part is there, tragus. Opposite to it, there will be antitragus. The joining area will be intertragic notch. But this is the lobule. The concha part is specifically divided into two parts. One is cavum. Cavum is cave. Means it is the opening of cave. That is external accounting meter. And one part is cymba. Just anterior to the opening of external accounting meters in the front is concha, is the elevation, the tragus. Opposite to the tragus and above the fleshy lobule is another elevation called as antitragus, as I have already told you. A smaller curved ring parallel and anterior to the helix will be called antihelix. So better to learn that things from diagram and to learn upside to downside the different structures which are going to be present there. A specific thing is present in the helix in the upper part only, that is Darbo's tubercle, which is a named structure, so you should remember it. Then let's see the muscles which are helping the auricle to perform its function. So basically, there are two groups, intrinsic and extrinsic group. The intrinsic group passes between the cartilaginous part of auricle and may change the shape of auricle. But the extrinsic group, which are three in number, basically anterior, superior, and posterior auricular muscle, pass from the scalp or skull to auricle and may help in the change in the position of the auricle. So both the groups of muscles are basically innervated by facial nerve. You can see in the diagram, intrinsic muscle small one. So you can see helical muscles are there, major and minor helical. Tragal muscles are there, antitragal muscles, and on the opposite side there will be more muscles. That is auricular oblique muscle, auricular transverse muscle. And the muscle which have one of the attachment other than the auricle, they will be extrinsic one, superior auricular muscle, posterior auricular muscle, and anterior auricular muscle. So from this diagram, you can better understand it. The intrinsic muscles, they are going to help the auricle move as a whole. There are auricularis superior, posterior, and anterior. Intrinsic one, they are only going to modify the shape of pinna, the helicus major and minor, tragus and antitragus, and transversus and obliquus oblique. More detail if you want, to the temporal branch of and posterior auricular branch of facial nerve are specifically going to supply these particular muscles. Next, the nerve supply of this particular auricle, it's very critical or very confusing. As you can see, it is supplied by different parts, different nerves. Sensory innervation of auricle is from many sources. Outer more superficial surfaces of auricle are supplied by greater auricular and lesser occipital nerve from the cervical plexus and the auriculotemporal branch of mandibular nerve, which is the part of trigeminal nerve. The deeper part of auricle will be supplied by the branches from facial nerve and vagus nerve. So you see the color pattern is given here, which is easy to understand. So from the outer view or from the lateral view, you can see the purple color is basically given for the greater auricular nerve, which is going to supply it, and the brick color is used for auriculotemporal nerve, which is the branch of mandibular nerve, that is trigeminal nerve. And the medial part, the concha part is specifically supplied by cranial nerve number 7 and 10, that is facial and vagus. If you see it from the medial side of cranial surface, so again the middle part, the internal part will supply by the same things. Maximum part is supplied by greater auricular nerve, right? You can see it is shown in here in purple color. Specifically outer side, it will be lesser occipital nerve, specifically supplying the upper part on the posterior side. So these are the sensory supplies for the auricle. Next comes the blood supply of vessels, related vessels. So arterial supply of auricle is from numerous sources, especially the external carotid artery supplies the posterior auricular artery. The superficial temporal artery supplies the anterior auricular branches, and occipital supplies directly a branch. So you can see here some branches are there. The name will be auricular branches. The anterior one will be supplied from the superficial temporal artery. Posterior one will be supplied from the external carotid artery directly. You can see here. Carotid artery directly supplying to the posterior branch, and occipital artery will supply a simple branch to it also. So basically, three branches will be there to supply the auricle. For venous drainage, it will be through the vessels following the arteries. So no same named vessels will be there. Lymphatic drainage of auricle passes anteriorly into the parotid nodes and posteriorly into the mastoid nodes, possibly up to the deep cervical nodes. So this was about the auricle. Next part in the external ear will be the external acoustic meatus, that is canal. So it extends from the deepest part of concha to the tympanic membrane, and the approximate distance is 1 inch or 2.5 centimeter, or it's better to take 2.4 centimeter converted to 24 mm. Its wall consists of cartilage and bone. The lateral one-third part is made from cartilage and extensions, and medial two-third part is from the bony tunnel in the temporal bone. So lateral one-third becomes 8 mm, medial two-third becomes 16 mm. So cartilage will be 8 mm part and bony part will be 24 mm. Throughout the length of external acoustic meatus, it is covered by the skin itself, and some of which contain hairs and modified sweat glands producing the cerumen. So this cerumen is going to trap the dust particles which are entering through the opening of ear. So in this diagram, you can simply understand this is the pinna part, then this part is the external acoustic. So here you can see the green color part is shown as the cartilage and this part is shown as the bone. The lateral one third is surrounded by cartilage and medial two third is surrounded by bony part. So these are the two divisions of external acoustic meatus. But you see a transverse loop, it is very specific, which is telling you that this particular canal or tunnel is not straight. There is a big curve is present at the junction of cartilage and bone, and this curve has to be straightened during the examination of ear. Okay, so let's see what we have to do actually. So first of all, its diameter varies, being wider laterally and narrow medially. The external acoustic meter does not follow a straight course. Remember, does not follow a straight course. From the external opening, it passes upward in an anterior direction, then turns slightly posterior, still passing in an upward direction, and finally turns again in the anterior direction with a slight descent. So this is the normal route or normal pathway for the external acoustic meter. But in examination purpose, what we have to do to observe the EM or tympanic membrane through it, it can be improved by pulling the ear superior, posterior, and slightly lateral. Then more or less the EM is going to become straighter and it will be easy to observe the pathway as well as tympanic membrane. We can simply remember pull the ear in SPL direction. S means superior, P means posterior, and lateral. So if you're going to do or pull the ear in SPL direction, your EAM is going to become more and more straighter and easy for the observance. So here you can see if all the external parts are going to be removed, so in the skull also you can identify the opening of EAM. This is external acoustic meatus opening lateral end. In the temporal bone or squamous part of temporal bone, you can easily find it out. Nerve supply. So nerve supply of this particular region is from several number of cranial nerves. The major sensory input travels through the branches of auriculotemporal nerve, again which is a branch of mandibular nerve, that is V3 of trigeminal, and auricular branch of vagus nerve. So here you can see the yellow color is shown for the facial nerve, which will be very little part. Greater auricular will be blue color, and auricular branch of vagus is from the purple side, as you can see, and green part is auriculotemporal part of V3, that is mandibular nerve. Minor sensory inputs are also from the facial nerve. So you can see all nerves are going to be supplied with the EAM part. This diagram gives you more better picture. So here you can see the surface facing the tympanic surface which is facing towards the EAM is also supplied by the same things only. Okay, so you can follow this diagram to understand it better. The pathway again, the curving pattern is given, so it will be easy for you to remember. Next part is tympanic membrane. Tympanic membrane is a curtain which separates the EAM from the middle ear. So sometimes there is little bit confusion where you have to actually include it, whether in external ear or middle ear. So you can simply remember this is a border. One side it is towards the external ear and other side it is towards the medial ear. So three things are here very important to keep in the mind. First of all, it is again not straight, it is in an angle. So that angle you have to understand, sloping medially from top to bottom and posterior to anteriorly. Its lateral surface therefore faces inferior and anterior. It consists of connective tissue core lined with the skin on the outside, that is towards the EAM, and mucous membrane on the inner side, that is towards the medial ear. Here you can see a diagram is given from the medial side, which will come afterwards, having one slide first. So how to understand it or what are the features? So first of all, on the periphery, this is a curtain. The curtain has to be hanged from somewhere. So there is fibrocartilaginous ring attached to the tympanic part of the temporal bone, which is helping its periphery to be get attached. You see the diagram? This is fibrocartilaginous ring. This fibrocartilaginous ring is helping this curtain, this membrane to be in its place. At the center, a concavity is produced by the attachment of internal surface of lower end of handle of malleus. The part of malleus bone in the middle here. This part of attachment is called umbo. So here you can see this whole thing is malleus. So malleus you can see different parts, which is anterior malleolar fold, lateral malleolar process, manubrium of malleolus, and this is the tip of malleolus, which is actually attached on the tympanic membrane from the medial side. And this arrangement or area will be called umbo, UMBO. Remember this part, umbo. Antero-inferior to the umbo of tympanic membrane, a bright reflection of light is there, referred as the cone of light, which is usually visible when examining the tympanic membrane with the otoscope. Otoscope is the instrument to check the ear canal or tympanic membrane. So when you see the tympanic membrane from a otoscope, you get a cone of light like this. This right part is cone of light or reflected cone of light, which can be seen just below to the umbo. Okay. Superior to the umbo in an anterior direction is the attachment of rest of malleolus. So superior to umbo, if you see, this was the umbo. Superior to it, every other part of malleolus you can identify like manubrium of malleolus, lateral fold, anterior fold, and posterior fold also. Okay. So here is also same diagram you can see here. And this, the second one is the diagram which is viewed from the otoscope, the real one. So here, 2-3 points or more which we have to discuss. So first of all, you see this is umbo part, this is malleolus handles. Now this is a cone of light. Now two parts are new here which we haven't done: pars tensa and pars flaccida. Let's see what is there. So at the most superior extent of this line of attachment, a small bulge in membrane marks the position of lateral process of malleolus as it protects against the internal surface of tympanic membrane. Extending away from this particular elevation on internal surface of membrane, there are anterior and posterior malleolar folds. So you can see here posterior malleolar folds. This posterior malleolar folds is important because a branch or nerve known as cauda tympani is going to pass through in this proximity. Okay, so posterior malleolar fold is important one. Superior to this fold, tympanic membrane is thin and slack. It is called pars flaccida, whereas rest of the membrane is thick and taut. That is pars tensa. So just remember, if there is a curtain and you have to extend it, you have to make it tense. Whatever part is in the middle region or around it, it will become something like this, which will be more transparent type, you can say. So this is called pars tensa. There will be tension, there will nothing will be looseness. And rest, this pars flaccida part will be little bit flaccid. So you can remember two words, thin and slack. So flaccid, thick and taut means tight, it will be tensa. So pars tensa and pars flaccida are the two parts of the whole of tympanic membrane on the basis of tension, strength, or thickness, which we can divide it the part. Okay, so pars tension basically lower part, pars flaccida will be upper side. So folds of the tympanic membrane is thin and slack, superior to it. It will be pars flaccida. Rest of it will be pars tensa. So from here also you can see these are both the views. This is the view from the external acoustic meatus. This is the view from the middle ear. Here you can see, we can see the just a shadow of malleolar handle, and rest there is a clean shape of tympanic membrane, the pellicula. But on the medial side, you can see this particular part is going to directly attach to the part. It will become umbo. You can see the nerve that is cauda tympani is going towards the posterior malleolar fold also. So this is the internal or medial side view, and this is the lateral side view, which we have to understand about the tympanic membrane. Now the nerve supply or innervations. The innervations of external and internal surface tympanic membrane is different. First of all, you should understand it is little bit different. As we have already talked, From the external acoustic meters, same skin is going to follow it also or cover it also. So the nerve supply will be basically same, which is supplying both the external acoustic meters like trigeminal nerve part, then additional parts of the facial nerve and vagus nerve. Here you can see the division is given. This part is from the facial nerve. This is auricular branch of the vagus nerve, also called here is Arnold nerve, and auricular temporal part of mandibular branch of temporal. So these three nerves will be supplying it from the external acoustic meter side, that is lateral side. Sensory innervation on the mucous side or inner side or medial ear side will be carrying entirely by the glossopharyngeal nerve. Now this diagram will give you more hint. You can see the lateral surface, medial surface. So you can see here vagus nerve is going to supply, glossopharyngeal is going to give supply, and some facial nerve is also there, apart from auricular temporal nerve. But from the medial side, basically it is glossopharyngeal nerve. Basically, it is going to supply with the help of some part of facial nerve. So here you see some names are given like Arnold nerve, Jacobson nerve. So in दोनों नाम को you have to learn properly and you keep in the mind these names can also be asked in some questions. So you should remember Arnold nerve is the vagus nerve part and Jacobson nerve is the glossopharyngeal part. So today we are going to stop it here and we'll continue in next part. Thank you.